I'll start with your bio first. Right. So, Dani Mariano is President of Razorfish. She has led an award-winning global digital marketing transformation for Samsung, spanning the Web3 launch of 837X and Discord channel, DTC commerce experiences, social media innovations, global web UI redesign, and advanced analytics and measurement. Prior to joining Razorfish and Publicis, Dani spent over 20 years in marketing leadership roles, working with brands such as Nestle, Avery Dennison, DirecTV, Honda, Alterna Hair Care, and Public Storage. All right, Dani, welcome.
Wow, thank you. That was quite a read.
Hey, have to for you. So first off, thank you for having us here today. Like your space, everything lovely, and really appreciate you coming in as one of our sponsors. So thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to have everybody here, and I actually have lived in LA all my adult life. I didn't even realize we had a tech week. So I feel like next year I'm going to have to check it out and try to get to more of the events. So
well, we're not responsible for the whole week, just your event.
But yeah, this is great. So yeah, awesome. Thank you all for coming.
So really, just to start off the topic, I'd like to know a little bit more about, as Mark was kind of teeing this up, some like AI, different ways to approach it. From Razorfish's vantage point, like how are you approaching and how is the company approaching AI as a whole?
Yeah, so we are an agency that we're actually 28 years old. We started in 1995, and we were really started on the prediction that everything that could be digital will be digital. And so we're here. Like, we're a company that embraces innovation, emerging technology, and so we're very excited about AI and how do we use that in the next frontier of digital marketing. We've gone from leading Web 1 to Web 2 to Web 3 eras, and so we see AI as something that will be foundational to everything that we do at the agency and being part of that equation. So we're very interested in understanding the technology, how we use it as a tool to help drive creativity and really work across everything that we do. And we think it will have a pretty profound impact on the way that we work, the way that we think about bringing work forward for our consumers and our clients, solving their brand issues. And Samsung is near and dear to my heart. I've worked on Samsung for a very long time, and we've already been doing different types of experiences using generative AI. And everything from, and Samsung is a great example because last summer we did a big 837X experience. That's their big building, their iconic building in Meatpacking in New York. And so we built that into Centraland. And we did a generative AI experience where you did a quest and all sorts of things to create 20,000 unique NFTs based on the quest behavior. So we've been doing a lot of AI work in the marketplace, I would say, in terms of experiences. And what we see now from generative AI and the chat GPTs and the DALL-E 2s is that now it starts to impact all kinds of work and how we get the work done versus the experiences that we're creating out in the marketplace. So we're pretty excited about it and setting up ways for our talent to be thinking about AI, being introduced to it and getting educated and embracing the technology, but with safety in mind. I thought some of Mark's examples were really important of ChatGPT is not always accurate. Like, because you can talk to it, it feels like it knows what it's talking about. And we know things like citations are made up. We can have hallucinations as a ChatGPT tool. And so as marketers, it's really important for us to be validating the accuracy. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about how do we do this in a safe way, that we're in line with legal guardrails, and that we're doing this in a way that benefits our clients as advisors on how to be safe and how to engage in these tools as kind of super tools for us to enhance our creativity and our productivity.
Yeah. Anything you'd care to share on just internally, so like at Razorfish, like ways that maybe you're integrating it or like changing workflows or whatever you could share on how you're integrating it?
Yeah, sure. So, we really started the year thinking about how to align we have 1,500 employees around the idea of AI. And so, of course, we have pockets and innovation teams that are really deep and engaged in the space from all different types of disciplines, from creative to tech to project management, to SEO to SEM, all over the spectrum. And when we started to think about how are we going to have an entire organization move fast, to learn these tools and to find those applications, we really started by training. So that was step one for us. Like, let's start talking about it. It is a scary topic. I know the question in the back of like, what roles were going to be eliminated? I've heard that question, a lot from our own talent of like, so what does this mean? And our position is that it's important for everyone in the agency to understand how to use those tools, because it can help all of us be more productive, and we see it having a powerful impact on improving everyone's productivity. So we're not looking to replace, we're looking to use AI as an enabler. We've also done trainings. We've identified tech and tools that meet our guidelines of what we think is safe for our clients. And so we've been pretty methodical about doing change management with our team members and thinking about how to make sure they're trained, that they have clear guidelines, and that we are constantly looking for ways to set what those guidelines are and update them. It's moving so fast, right? We can't just be one and done. And then, looking to partners, which we have a lot of sensitive information for our clients. We have to protect that. We cannot be feeding confidential information into ChatGPT. And I know there's some pretty interesting stories around how ChatGPT knows things it's not supposed to know. Yeah. And some of our clients have had incidents where internal employees have loaded things that they weren't supposed to be loading into the system. So we're very careful at trying to find those solutions for our teams to have walled environments with trusted partners where legals and licenses have been vetted to allow them into playgrounds where they can play safely. And then we've asked teams to really start thinking about how to start to experiment and come up and crowdsource use cases, and have come up with a whole bunch of very interesting things of like, how do you get Google and ChatGPT talking to each other for SEO, and how do we make slicing and dicing assets really fast and easy. So we've been able to crowdsource quite a few use cases that we're now trying to experiment with. So we're really trying to like bring it from the ground up and finding those and ignite everybody's creativity and imagination.
So in AI overall, like, what excites you right now? Like, it could be something that you've done internally or implemented, or it could be something that you're working on for a client. It could be otherwise. Just like, what excites you? Like, what motivates you and makes you think, man, we need to keep figuring this out?
Yeah, so on a very personal level, I have a deep fake of myself. And I love this because I'm trying to figure out how I can get it to talk to a deep fake that we made of my boss, and I can have, some sort of conversation going on, and maybe take over presentations for me that I don't love to give across the country. So that's fun. And I've really been enjoying that. But from a marketing perspective, I think there's really 3 territories that we talk a lot to our clients about. And when I meet with CMOs, that we get into the conversation. So first is really around AI-driven experiences. So those are the things like virtual spaces and digital. And if you think about the beauty category and clothing and all the different ways that you can use the AI filters in social media, through site experiences, even now to, the goggles, how we're going to create those AI-driven experiences. Like, those are really fun, and we have been doing those for a long time, and a lot of creativity comes from that. The second topic is really efficiency, and how are we going to drive efficiency? And yes, there's cost savings, and how can we think about that for our brands? But what's really interesting is when marketers have these ideas, these CMOs come up with the most brilliant ideas of like, could we get generative AI to predict, where I should put this press release, or where I should place a bet on a speaking engagement where I can get the biggest bang for the time and the money spent. And so we do a lot of that in media because we've got models, we've got media mixing that we can look at, we've got attribution models, all those things that everybody knows from digital marketing. But this is now looking for how do we start to optimize the media mix outside of just what we pay for. And so that to me is fascinating of like, how do we find those untapped nuggets, a little bit of Moneyball in marketing of like, where are those untapped nuggets that we can see in the data and the patterns that, you can't see today because we can't process the data fast enough. And then the third area that I personally am very excited about is personalization. So my background, I've done a lot of database and CRM marketing, and we always dream of one-to-one marketing. And then how are we going to get there? And so we talk a lot about one-to-one marketing at scale. That requires a lot of assets and a lot of personalization. And so as we think about what generative AI can do once we have like the tools and we sort out the copyrights and the legals and the IP legalities, is that we can actually get not just to one-to-one scale with the number of assets we can produce, but we can do it fast.
Yeah.
And speed is really important when we're doing relevant one-on-one marketing, because it can't take us 6 weeks to get back and respond to the moment. We want to respond in that moment. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm very excited because I feel like the dream of one-to-one marketing is like, it's just around the corner. Like I can see it for real. And when we talk to companies about how to activate in these categories, we're thinking about not just the front office of the marketing and what does that going to look like in the marketplace, but we're also thinking a lot about what is their digital maturity, because it's important how the data is organized for us to be able to run the models on their data sets. It's important for us to understand their MarTech stack and how organized that is and how well that's talking to each other. And then finally, their ad tech. How are they getting their messages into market? And we have companies that we work with at all different levels of that maturity. And there's a lot of different unique business challenges. So for me, there's a lot of territory where generative AI will have a huge, profound impact on marketing. But those are the three areas that I personally get really excited about.
I love that you have a deep fake. That's so cool. I'm trying to get Mark to build AI Adam because so it'll just ask the questions for me.
Yeah.
It's all good. Do
it's
the podcast.
Yeah, it's a little creepy, but it's
not to
good.
me. It's awesome.
My deep fake's a little creepy.
Oh, is
but
it? I want mine realistic, Mark. Realistic.
And autonomous.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay.
So, something that you mentioned in terms of like the next steps of marketing strategy in relation to maybe either tracking or just overall marketing strategy, like what are you seeing on that horizon, hopefully?
Yeah, so I think it comes back to the data, right? Mm-hmm. So when we start off any campaign, and we're a data-driven organization, our strategists are looking for those insights that come out of the data. And I think generative AI and being able to process massive data sets will be fascinating to see how that can inform and find new information and insights that are very difficult for us to get to fast. And we're part of Publicis Group. That's our holding company. We have huge data assets. We haven't figured out yet how to apply AI to those data sets yet. But I think those are pretty exciting opportunities where we can start to now think about what that data will unlock for us. And on the tracking side, I think it speeds up that analysis and how does it then input into real-time optimization, probably in a very different way. And I know we see some of our media partner vendors, like the ones you can all think of, Google, Meta, et cetera, are already deploying these types of generative AI models where they're taking real-time analytics and being able to feed that back into the performance media. So I think we'll see it get better and better, and it will really come down to the data, how it's organized, how we can process it, and then how does that informing briefing from a strategy perspective, as well as back to like the personalization at scale, and how can we be using and getting smarter at how we're tailoring those experiences for consumers.
So talking for a moment to some of those other executives out there who have, large assets, they have, a lot of data, like you said, and they're going through figuring it out. What kind of advice would you give them, as they go down that journey as well? Because everybody's been talking about the cat's out of the bag. It's all like, can't get this thing back in. What kind of things would you tell them? Yeah,
so we actually spend a lot of time in the C-suite talking about AI and what does it mean. And you're right, it's the iPhone moment. I think Mark was kind of hinting at that, of like, it's a seminal moment, and it's so profound that we can't ignore what's going on with AI. So we talk a lot about where companies can think about the different types of AI. And I think kind of to the question that we had of like, what are the different types of AI? And we've got, predictive AI that we've seen a lot with Amazon and the Alexas and those kinds of tools. We've got classification AI, which is, I think, what you see more in the Google Maps and the Tesla, the Snapchats, that we're scanning faces and we're trying to classify what's going on. And now with generative AI, this is really kind of that next frontier. So our part of our role is to advise clients on how to enter this space safely. So we do provide our guidance on which tools and which technology we feel are safe for brands to be using. We create different assets here at Publicis Group that we can tap into, that Razorfish leads the conversation in terms of how do we safely create walled arenas. We try to be advisors in terms of how to tap into generative AI. And then the other part is a lot of times we'll just tell our brands, like, experimenting and doing pilots, like, it's time to start. Like, if we wait for it to be perfect, you'll miss the advantage of the experimentation, but we have to do it in a safe and productive way and an authentic way. that is important for there to be that transparency with consumers. So I think our advice is really like, be cautious, but don't be afraid to engage.
So before we open this up to the audience, so we'll have some questions, of course. I want to talk a little bit more about Razorfish. So Cannes coming up, you got a bunch of announcements like Cannes, like tell us a little bit about what's.
Yeah. So the first, which is tied to AI topic actually, is that I'm really proud. We've just announced on Monday that we are have a steering member position on C2PA. So C2PA, can't barely say it yet, is the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity, specifically for AI. We're the first holding company to join the coalition, and it's bringing marketing and tech professionals together to set the standards for how AI is going to be used, so that there are standards and that there will be transparency around authenticity of we're a creative company, so around creative assets that we're making for our clients. So I'm very proud of that announcement, and that as a holding company, we're committed to being part of shaping that conversation and shaping and setting those standards that we very much believe in need to be in place, and that we can put in place for our clients and for consumers. So that's one of the first big announcements that we've made this week that we're pretty excited about.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And then following up on that, next week in Paris is VivaTech. This is our global event. We're a Paris-based company, so it's in Paris. And we will be there to talk and bring marketing and technology leaders together from around the world. And we'll be talking about AI and what does it mean for our industry. So I'm very much looking forward to attending that. If anybody's going to be in Paris or at the event, please let me know. And then following that up is Cannes. So we are going to have a pretty fun week in Cannes. It's a creativity festival. It's advertising based. It's a little bit silly, but it's also really important time to celebrate the creativity and authenticity within the advertising industry. And I expect AI will be top of mind at the festival. And we'll be hosting an event with Forrester to talk about, where CMOs are seeing opportunities and what's happening with marketing and technology for CMOs and what's top of mind for them in the industry. So we'll be hosting that event as Razorfish at Cannes. So we're really excited about that as well.
Well, I just like to say that we officially kicked off your tour.
You did, absolutely.
Mission Matters kicked it off.
There we go. We'll stick with that. I love it. It's a great way to kick it off. Yeah.
Well, let's want to get the audience involved, of course, and be able to ask some questions. So, Siraj, you.
Hey, thank you so much for this. My name is Nicholas. I run a production company, Smart Media. We have a new project coming out via Comic-Con. It deals with emotional AI. Everyone's been mentioning AI, but I haven't heard anyone mention emotional AI. And being in marketing, are you familiar with emotional AI and how it can play in to the marketing to customers and consumers?
Yeah, I have to, I'll be really honest, I'm not an AI expert. So I don't know that that's something that's top of mind. We've really focused more on generative AI from the creative perspective, but it's definitely a topic I would love to learn more. We do focus a lot on thinking about connections with consumers, and part of our mission at Razorfish is to connect purpose for brands to performance, and part of that is that emotional connection is at the heart of that conversation, broadly speaking. So definitely something that I would love to learn more about.
Hi, my name is Lisa Kranick, and I'm a Chief Marketing Officer and a fan of Razorfish, longtime fan of Razorfish, back from New York days. So thank you for having me. I'm curious, aside from the marketing innovation, I was just wondering if you have seen interesting consumer applications or businesses started around using generative AI or ChatGPT as solutions for problems in the consumer space. Have you seen anything interesting? Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about early days. It's always like a bunch of junk, but have you seen anything that you thought was interesting?
Yeah, it's a great question. Solving for consumer problems, I'm racking my brain. The one that pops to mind, which isn't exactly what you're asking, but there is a tool where they've got a huge data set, and as a strategist, it helps you identify your personas, and then you can start to have a conversation with those personas as if you're actually having a focus group, but through ChatGPT. So I haven't actually, I think, have a great example for you in terms of solving a consumer problem. There's a lot with chatbots and autonomous, social influencers, that if you get them trained properly, we'll see how sophisticated those are. And they're kind of good and kind of creepy, but, those are probably the ones that are top of mind for me in terms of solving a real consumer pain point of like, oh, this is interesting. We have some of our beauty clients doing the typical things. It's not, I think, built on, LLMs, but it's more based on, more the, predictive, and using the filters and those kinds of things of trying to understand what you're buying before you actually buy it. So I think we'll continue to see more come out in terms of that.
Like in travel and certain categories, I think they'll be interesting to see what springs up out of the abilities.
Yeah, it definitely feels like early days, but I do think it will be fast. The speed that this is moving is incredible, and we've got a lot of creative energy. I think definitely in LA, but a lot of creative energy about how to use these tools. So, yeah, great question.
Hi, my name is Pankaj. You mentioned C2PA. Is that?
Yeah. Yes.
And you mentioned something about authenticity in assets, and I thought it was really interesting because I do a lot of copyright law, and I think there's so much of a blurred line nowadays when you talk about what is authentic, because artists can upload something to Midjourney and then they could create derivatives of that. I guess it could be their own copyright, but like, how are you guys navigating that? And it's a tough question. So
it is, and I don't know that we have the perfect answer yet, but we do have legal teams that are very very clear on the needs of our clients, which is they need to, where does ownership lie? Where is IP lying? And making sure that we're very clear on those rights usage. So we have very specific point solutions in place with vendors that have been fully vetted, and the terms of engagement are very, very clear. And we make sure that that's very clear to our clients to make sure that we're meeting their needs. So our chief strategy officer and our chief creative officers, they are working at the global level to make sure that we have the right agreements in place, because it is tricky for all the things that you just said, and we want to be very, very careful. And we're a creative company. We have a lot of artists that work at this company, so we have a vested interest in protecting just creativity and artists and IP rights just globally as people who work in that type of an industry and are surrounded by that kind of talent that we want to respect and honor. So, we have lots of teams working on making sure that we're thinking through what the legal ramifications are, and that we're in line as more. I think we're going to see more legal precedents come through the courts that we'll obviously abide by and support.
Test. Awesome talk. Great shoes.
Oh, thank you.
Question around have you seen any startups in the marketing or advertising space that are coming up with super cool kind of disruptive technology? And I'll give an example. In 2020 NBA finals, they had the bubble, and they had these locations for specific logos to be placed. So it's like digital layers, right? How does AI kind of play in this new space through maybe disrupting also the real-time advertising bidding for ads on kind of digital space? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think I probably won't have a great specific example for you, to be super honest. Unfortunately, I don't get to work in M&A. So we do have a team that is investigating and learning all about different companies. I think from the experience side, we will continue to see, and a lot of the CMOs that I talk to, we come and talk about experiences, and they're like, well, we've got these 5 things in pipeline, and they're doing the same thing of talking to different companies about how to fast track. What's always stunning to me is that the level of effort to get these experiences into market is actually pretty low. And when we talk to the handful of startups that I've been able to talk to, they don't have massive tech teams. It's very small teams that are able to make very interesting things happen with what's publicly available. So I do think we'll continue to see that. And we'll have different types of very creative solutions.
Right.
Yeah, it's a very disruptive moment. And I think there's the moment of what are the big ideas that are out there? I think there's a lot of big ideas, but there's a lot of legal challenges, right? And where we sit at the intersection of, we want to embrace those ideas, but we are advisors to some of the world's biggest brands. And so we're very careful at making sure that we're honoring our role as a trusted advisor, while we're balancing, how do we help them innovate and disrupt their in their categories. So great question. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you.
Technology consulting, so advising and all that, what you're saying also resonates, right? A lot of companies are like, can I just use ChatGPT to do a lot of work I'm paying you for? It's like, well, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, we did get a phone call that somebody was going to hook up ChatGPT to their website to be their customer service, their customer service bot. And we were like, wait, let's take a deep breath before we do that. But we are seeing, vendors that allow you to take your body of material and train an AI type tool that is using natural language to be able to do things like that. But it's not just plug ChatGPT 3 up and good luck, So we do see a lot of very ambitious, curious type of conversations, but we do have to kind of reel people back sometimes into what's possible safely versus just what's possible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I got the next question. As consumers get more and more used to seeing AI generated images and copy, I assume that there's going to be some pushback. They're not going to really like the feeling of being talked to and sold to by something clearly created by AI. So how do you think that marketers can navigate that, either by making it obvious that it's by AI or get the consumer more comfortable with it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I feel like I fell for one of those deep fake AI. I was like, oh, look at that cute little possum. I'm like, wait, that's not logically possible. And look at those fingers, right? You can tell now a lot of times when you're looking at an AI image, but it will get better, right? Very, very quickly. It will get better where you won't be able to see it. And I do think it's a great question because I don't think we're going to get consumers comfortable with this idea of hey, we're just going to push a bunch of fake stuff at you and think that that's going to drive conversion. We see a lot of shift now in the marketplace with people, especially coming out of the pandemic, of people want genuine connection. They want authenticity. And I personally spend a lot of time in Web3. What I love about Web3 is it's community-based. It's really about how do you find connection in that place that you belong. We do a lot of Discord work with some of the biggest brands that have Discord channels, and that's all about community and finding that authentic place of belonging. AI is a challenge in that equation when we know people want to have authentic connections to the brands that they love. I do think there's a transparency component to that. I do think there's probably using AI in the right way versus just kind of we're going to get the machine running and just let it go. And that's where we see the ability for AI to be a tool for humans to do better marketing and to drive those connections. And, there's things that the machines can do faster and better, like slicing and dicing assets. I don't think consumers are going to have a problem with that. But what goes into those assets that are being sliced and diced, we still believe firmly that there is that need for human contribution into what those assets are going to be and those stories are going to be. So I do agree it's going to be a challenge, and I think that's where the brands that can be authentic in their conversations with consumers will build those brand connections that will lead to true loyalty versus just kind of the bad ideas and kind of the junk marketing that will be out in the marketplace.
Can I ask a question? So I'd like to know how the agency thinks about the convergence of AI and blockchain technology. And in marketing, right, generative AI can generate value. Is there an effort to find ways for consumers, the audience, to actually own some of the value in terms of digital assets?
Yeah, so I don't know that I've got it all figured out, or we have it all figured out of AI and blockchain, but we are very interested in blockchain technology and what that means for consumers. So, as we enter Web3, we see, and I think that there's a huge opportunity as we face a world where cookies are being sunset. That's going to have huge implications in the advertising industry. It's a big challenge, actually, for us. At the same time, I'm very excited because consumers now have the ability, and I think somebody had a question over here, or had a point around hey, actually I think it was Mark, you were saying hey, I just give up all my data. Why? Maybe I should be more thoughtful about that. I think Web3 allows consumers to take that back in the blockchain and have that written into a way that we can start to now monetize that as consumers. And that creates a very different equation for marketers to be thinking about that relationship with consumers and what does that marketing equation look like, and what are those econometric ways we're going to spend money against consumers versus today where we have a lot of rewards programs that are just churn and burn and not based on real their transactional loyalty programs. I think Web3 will usher in an era where consumers own their data and brands will build authentic loyalty programs based on a connection with their most valuable consumers, and consumers will own a part of that brand through digital assets. So where AI plays into that conversation, I'm not really sure yet, but I do think AI and Web3 will be a very important part of the next 5 to 10 years of marketing and how we interact between brands and consumers.
One last question.
All right. I think we're good.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.